All right, I think it's too hard to choose a video with these on, or too hard to see the options. The truth about peeing Calvin. Bro, have you guys seen these stickers? All right, look close. If you've said no, think again, because there's one among us right now. And I'm not talking about Among Us right now. Dun dun! It's an Apes of the State sticker with Calvin pissing. I don't really know the lore behind Calvin pissing. I think it's from Calvin and Hobbes, right? All right, anyway, pissing Calvin. Listen, that is true. There hasn't been shit to watch, and that's why I'm here.
It's tragic.
I'm here to watch
everywhere.
Things for you to watch.
Calvin.
Look at him! But Calvin and Hobbes always seem so wholesome. Why is he being a naughty boy and making a political statement with his urine? Huh?
If you don't know, he's a ubiquitous car decal of a little boy who looks like Calvin from the Calvin and Hobbes comic strip, peeing on stuff the vehicle owner doesn't like. He's the
So Yankee. It's not canon? Is that what you're saying?
On the Mets, the USA peeing on terrorists. I pulled you on this, and
the liberals, the other stuff, the woke, the, you know, anything. It could be anything. Literally, fucking Falling in Reverse has merch of this guy on the.
And 8,000
it's cringe,
voted and saw
but everyone uses it.
Urinating on politicians and sports teams and car brands, and the Domino's logo, admittedly very niche.
What's wrong with Domino's?
But how did this happen when the comic strip's creator not only didn't allow it?
I haven't heard Freudian by Glaive. Is it new?
I want to set things up a little bit here for Calvin fans, but more so for people who might be too young to know the story or who are from another country and don't know anything about Calvin and Hobbes, because I think it is worth telling.
Where is it from, even? Not from
Calvin
America?
And Hobbes was a newspaper comic strip. It was so much more than a comic strip.
Oh, it literally ended like the year after I was born, so that makes sense.
The collected Calvin and Hobbes, and this is like a precious stone to some people.
Not me.
It's also very heavy.
It's books. It's paper.
And listen, I am a casual Calvin and Hobbes fan, but there is a tattoo level of fandom for this comic. However, I am the expert when it comes to one thing: Calvin peeing on stuff. When you Google...
What did you mean by that?
Peeing Calvin, my 2014 article about it shows up as the #1 result.
I see.
Go to the image tab and, well, it's my article's images. As a result, people have been emailing me for a decade
the guy.
with Peeing Calvin trivia, and they've interviewed me about its history. I'm not going to be able to summarize all of Calvin and Hobbes for you, but I want to sketch out a taste of what the strip is like. If you imagine Charlie Brown as a depressed old man, and Bart Simpson, vintage Bart Simpson,
he's a baby,
as a catchphrase sass machine,
eat my shorts.
Calvin is somewhere in the middle, with 3 extra teaspoons of incredible imagination. For example, there's this trope in Calvin and Hobbes of a cardboard box. Maybe it's a transmogrifier. It changes you from one thing to another thing. Early on, Calvin gets inside it to change from a boy into a tiger. In the final panel ever for the strip, this is a spoiler, but it's not really a spoiler, Calvin says to Hobbes, "Let's go exploring."
No spoilers, please.
But he is nothing like this. This is a disgrace.
That's what I want to know.
It's not even a real image from the strip.
Well, what the hell?
It is generally accepted that somebody took the June 5th,
He was simply filling up a balloon, dude. He was framed. He was potentially filling that with piss. We don't know what's connected to that pipe, but it's unlikely.
1988 strip, right here, where Calvin is filling up a water balloon and modified it to show him
he did not piss.
On
Get him off the registry, which you can get for pissing in public. You can be charged for that. That is indecent exposure.
Really clearly with the side.
And he's a baby.
In the end of that strip, by the way, Calvin is too sweet to even throw the water balloon on Hobbes.
Damn it.
So you've got the source of the image.
He was framed.
How did it grow?
He's innocent.
Go to the archives.
Oh, wait, let him cook, though. He's pissing on Florida.
It's like it became a meme as part of a Florida football rivalry, particularly between the University of Florida and FSU, Florida State University, with Calvin peeing on FSU. This 1995 article describes the rivalry as being intense and with Calvin of Calvin and Hobbes urinating on the letters FSU. But I recently got an email from a
which are the same ones as USF, which I also did not attend, so who gives a fuck? Piss on all of Florida.
Peeing Calvin
piss on it.
Pretty quick after that 1988 comic. I'm protecting his identity. because he doesn't want to be associated with peeing Calvin on Google for the rest of his life. Like,
Too late.
Our big rival.
I'm liking the video
FSU.
just because he doesn't want me to.
FSU T-shirts started being sold door to door.
I've been
I
had.
think the first one was of Calvin standing east of the state of Florida, peeing up and to the left of Tallahassee.
Hey, yo.
FSU's home.
Watch
For
the
whatever
Tampa,
my
dude.
hazy
You're gonna get
college
some on
memory
me.
is worth to your in-depth investigation. In case you ever update it, now you have it. So they had the idea in Florida, and from there it spread. It became a meme. It was
As
also
piss
transplanted
does.
to Calvin peeing on lots of different stuff.
It is a dumb image, though, so I don't know how it got this popular.
Ford, Chevy, Navy, City Boys. He was knocked off to a praying version. And there was
It's like just a gas
peeing
station piece of Americana or
girl
something.
Calvin.
I don't
A
know.
lot of people ended up thinking
I
that
love
Calvin's
pissing.
creator, Bill Watterson,
Look at my car. I love
was
it.
the guy behind the peeing Calvin decals. He was making bank off of it, the same way that Garfield cartoonist Jim Davis made a ton of money off of those Garfield suction cup dolls that were ubiquitous if you grew up in the 80s.
I
or
do not
90s.
remember any of those.
That couldn't be further from the truth.
Before my time. But I do know that, I'll just say I think I know that Garfield was intentionally made to make a lot of money. He was supposed to be a likable guy and marketable and sell plushies.
It's really hard to find a picture of Bill Watterson, Calvin's creator. This one comes from an article in the Cleveland Plain Dealer just a few months later, while Garfield artist Jim Davis was happy to lecture about Garfield. Watterson was already hiding behind a picture of Calvin. Despite his private persona, he actually ended up having kind of a very public debate about licensing the Calvin and Hobbes comic. Let me explain. It's actually
but what
started
about
an
piss?
industry trend, but here's the twist. Because there wasn't licensing cash to fund lawyers to hunt down all the knockoff Calvin and Hobbes products,
it was
those
too
products could
widespread.
kinda get away with it. There were some big lawsuits. One big wholesaler got ordered to pay for his illegal use. But for the most part, peeing Calvin ran free, in part because there wasn't enough cash to fund a legal team to put it down. Today, you can still buy peeing Calvin decals from really big companies.
From everyone.
Or even crypto Calvins, equally unlicensed, if you have enough Ethereum.
Yeah, don't buy those. Way less cool. Don't put that on your car. Cringe. Will go down in value to 0.
Get up and draw something for you. So, when I wrote that article 10 years ago, I kind of thought that Watterson was being naive, that he should have just licensed Calvin to keep the decal out of car windows and all the other random crap. And now I've kind of changed my mind. Watterson knew what he was
I'm
doing.
hunched over too.
The end of that comic where he says, "I will refuse to compromise
Trust
my
me."
principles," it ends with Calvin saying, "Because they don't have the slightest bearing on what happens to me anyway."
Whoa.
A great Calvin book that I read for this video. It recounts that the syndicate representatives came by to Watterson's house. They spread counterfeit t-shirts
sent the feds.
out on a table for him and patiently, kindly said that licensing could help stop the tarnishing of his work. And he still turned them down. He didn't just turn down a bunch of money, he turned down keeping Calvin's brand pristine.
Okay, so he just
Selling
didn't
out
want to license it at all and kept it public domain, I'm assuming?
Is
Or just didn't
usually
defend
more
it?
a matter of
Interesting.
buying in. He told
That's
Kenyan
noble, I suppose.
graduates at a commencement speech.
In a way.
All right, this is what we think it looks like, right? We think that your art can be pured or it can be ruined. And you can be an artist or you can be a sellout.
Uh-huh.
If you decide to be an artist, you decide to keep your work pure, end up here.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be a sellout and get a truckload of money, but your work is ruined. But Bill knew that those were not the only two options. He knew that you could be an artist, like he chose to be. You could turn away those dump trucks of money, and you could still end up with your work being tainted by it, being tarnished. And he didn't care.
He took the El Bozo route on purpose?
Some people saw his
Why?
and it only awakened partisanship or fandom or consumerism. They defiled his work in the most straightforward way possible.
He's just pissing,
Why
dude.
didn't he just take the money to save Calvin. I think because there was more at stake than this boy and this tiger that millions of people loved. Bill Watterson was at stake. Do you remember the transmogrifier?
No. Oh, the box.
Changes you from one thing into another. Here's the thing. We all get a box. We set the options. We turn the dial. You can choose to go inside.
Yeah, I skipped
come
this
out
part the first
partisan,
time, buddy.
Or a fan. Or a consumer. Or you can take another option. You can choose what you're turned into. You just have to set the dial.
Listen, I think this guy hates pissing Calvin. I think the other guy just didn't give a fuck and see anything wrong with pissing Calvin. Maybe, but who knows? This guy obviously did way more research. Such shout out Phil Edwards, dude. The ending kind of got me invested. I wasn't fully invested at the beginning, but dude, we're here.